Yeah, I mean, it's aviation's biggest mystery ever. I mean, and it's the last plane to go missing, actually, even now in 2025. What are our intelligence agencies like able to do, willing to do, and how are they able to, lie to us?
Those are the words of Ashton Forbes, and if he is right, the disappearance of 239 people was not a tragic accident, but a carefully hidden plan. Since 2014, the fate of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 has become one of the greatest mysteries in aviation, sparking theories that range from technical failure to terrorism. Yet a darker idea has gained ground. The plane was taken over, controlled for reasons we are not meant to know. Could the shocking videos linked to this case support such a theory? For years, most people believed that Flight MH370 was lost because of a tragic accident or the actions of its own pilots, but now a bold new theory has gained attention. This idea suggests the plane was not destroyed by chance at all, but that it was deliberately taken over. The claim has shocked many because it turns the story from a mystery of nature into a question of human control. If true, it means that the loss of 239 people was the result of intentional action rather than a disaster. The foundation of this theory lies in evidence that appeared online long after the official search had begun. While governments focused on debris and ocean searches, two unusual videos began to circulate. They did not show wreckage in the water or pieces of metal washed ashore. Instead, they seemed to show the plane itself in its final moments, surrounded by strange lights that behaved with purpose. For many, these images opened the door to the idea that MH370 had been captured rather than lost. This new perspective has spread because it offers explanations that the official story has never been able to give. Families have long asked why the radar trail suddenly stopped and why no emergency call was ever heard. The new theory argues that the pilots never had a chance to warn anyone because control had already been taken from them. In this version, the silence of the cockpit is not mysterious but expected because the crew was no longer in charge of their own aircraft. Supporters also point out that modern planes are highly complex machines filled with systems that can be influenced from the outside. After the attacks of September 11th, discussions about remote takeover technology began, and patents for uninterruptible autopilot systems were even filed. If such technology existed, it could explain how MH370 could vanish without warning. The possibility that this system was used in a real operation has only added to the controversy. The most unsettling part of this new idea is that it connects human intention to tragedy. Instead of thinking about failed engines or a sudden fire, it forces us to imagine a group of people with the power to remove an entire jet from the sky. If that were the case, then the disappearance of MH370 was not an accident at all, but an act carried out with a purpose. The question is whose purpose and why? This shift in perspective has divided the public. Some see it as impossible, while others believe it explains more than the official reports. Either way, it has made the mystery of MH370 even darker, because it suggests the fate of the passengers was decided not by chance but by design. Could the videos that claim to show these events provide the missing proof the world has been waiting for? The turning point in this mystery came when two military-style videos appeared online, showing what many believe were the final moments of Flight MH370. Unlike blurry photos or rumors, these recordings had detail, motion, and strange precision. The first was a thermal image, often called FLIR, that showed a large aircraft in the dark sky, its heat signature glowing against a colder background. The second was a wide-area motion imagery clip linked to a system known as Gorgon Stare, which captured the same aircraft from above with unusual clarity. Both videos seemed to tell the same story from two different angles, and that made them far harder to ignore. In the footage, MH370 does not appear to be falling out of the sky or breaking apart. Instead, the plane is seen flying steadily, trailed by faint streams of exhaust, just like any jet at altitude. Then, three glowing spheres enter the frame, moving in a way that looks deliberate. They circle the plane in a tight pattern, their paths smooth and controlled, as if they were directed by some form of guidance system. For viewers, this was not random light in the sky, but objects behaving with intent. The climax of both videos is what makes them unforgettable. After circling for several seconds, the glowing spheres seem to synchronize. They close in around the aircraft, and in an instant, a flash fills the screen. The heat image goes blank, and the wide area view shows only empty sky. There is no explosion, no falling debris, and no visible wreckage. The Boeing 777 simply vanishes. This is what pushed many to believe that something extraordinary, whether natural or engineered, had taken place. What made the videos even more compelling was their consistency. The timing of the orb's movements matched between the thermal and optical recordings. The angle of the clouds, the faint trails of exhaust, and even the position of the aircraft all lined up perfectly. Forensic analysts noted that creating two separate but synchronized videos with such detail would have been extremely difficult in 2014, especially for anonymous internet users. This gave weight to the idea that the recordings were not simple hoaxes, but something that had leaked from a military source. Skeptics have argued that the footage could still be fabricated, pointing to digital effects and clever editing. However, even critics admit that the level of precision is unusual for fakes of that era. Supporters of the theory believe the footage might have been released deliberately, either by someone with access to classified files or by insiders who wanted the truth to be known. If that is correct, then the videos are not just random leaks, but intentional signals to the public. The images of MH370, surrounded by orbs and disappearing in a flash, remain some of the most disturbing visual evidence connected to the case. They have fueled debates on whether this was advanced military technology, an unknown natural phenomenon, or something even stranger. What is certain is that these videos transform the discussion of MH370 from tragedy to conspiracy. If the recordings are genuine, then they may represent the only visual record of what happened to the missing plane. But who created these videos, and why did they appear when they did? When the mysterious videos of MH370 first spread online, many treated them as a joke, but Ashton Forbes became the main voice saying they were genuine. He argued that the recordings showed a level of detail far beyond what amateur creators could manage in 2014. The synchronized angles, the realistic exhaust trails, and the cloud patterns all looked authentic. For Forbes, this was not the work of pranksters, but the result of advanced surveillance systems. Instead of dismissing the clips, he studied them frame by frame. He compared timestamps, tracked the movement of the aircraft, and pointed out how the thermal and wide-area footage aligned perfectly. Supporters noted that the lighting and heat signatures matched across both videos, creating consistency that would be almost impossible to fake. According to Forbes, fabricating two synchronized perspectives with such precision would have required classified technology, not consumer software. He also highlighted the limitations of digital tools at the time. In 2014, visual effects programs could produce explosions and flashes, but they struggled to mimic realistic heat signatures, vapor trails, and the distortion of air around wings. Even professional studios would have found this challenging, yet the clips showed no obvious errors. What made the mystery deeper was that no credible person has ever claimed to have created them. For Forbes, the silence around their origin was another sign that the source was not civilian. Skeptics pushed back, arguing that talented individuals might still have managed such a feat with enough time. Some visual effects experts suggested that digital tricks could explain the orbs and the flash. Forbes used these concessions to strengthen his position, saying that doubts could not erase the many details pointing toward authenticity. Beyond the technical breakdown, Forbes raised questions about motive. If the videos were leaked intentionally, then someone with access to restricted data wanted the public to see them. He shared his findings across podcasts, forums, and independent channels, inviting others to test the evidence themselves. Over time, he built a following convinced that the videos could not be ignored. The lasting impact of Forbes' research is that it forced the world to consider a disturbing possibility. Before his analysis, the claim that MH370 had been taken over sounded like science fiction. After his work, it became a scenario that many could no longer rule out. If the videos are real, they may be the only visual proof of what happened that night. But if they are, who released them and why did they take such a risk? The most unsettling theory about MH370 is that the flight was not just a commercial journey, but a target for intelligence operations. Supporters of this viewpoint point to the passenger list, which included 20 employees of Freescale Semiconductor, a company connected to defense contracts. These engineers worked on technologies such as microchips and radar systems, tools with both civilian and military uses. To many, their presence raised suspicion that the flight carried more than tourists and business travelers. Adding to the suspicion was the cargo. Investigators later confirmed that MH370 carried over 200 kilograms of lithium-ion batteries. At first, this detail was hidden, only being revealed after nearly 2 weeks of public pressure. Lithium batteries can be dangerous, but they are also critical in advanced electronics, drones, and even weapons systems. The fact that this information was not disclosed immediately fueled speculation that the cargo might have been more sensitive than the authorities admitted. Those who believe in the intelligence theory argue that the combination of high-level engineers and unusual cargo made the plane a valuable target. If rival nations or secret groups wanted to intercept sensitive technology, MH370 could have been the perfect opportunity. This idea fits with patterns from the Cold War, when passenger planes were sometimes caught in the middle of espionage. In this version of the story, the disappearance of MH370 was not random, but a calculated move to capture knowledge or equipment. Critics of the theory say that the focus on Freescale staff is exaggerated. They argue that while the company was important, no single flight could hold secrets worth the risk of a global scandal. Yet even skeptics admit that the presence of so many specialists traveling together is unusual. The lithium cargo also remains a troubling detail because the delay in reporting it left families feeling misled. These gaps in information gave conspiracy theories fertile ground to grow. Some analysts go further, suggesting that the flight was intercepted not only for what it carried, but also for what it represented. A commercial jet is easy to track, yet MH370 managed to vanish from both civilian and military radar. If an outside force wanted to test new takeover technology or showcase power, this flight offered the stage. the passengers became unwilling witnesses in a larger game, one that may have been tied to international competition. The intelligence theory has never been proven, but it refuses to fade away. Every time new details surface, such as the delay in releasing cargo information or the secrecy surrounding passenger data, supporters see it as confirmation that the truth is being hidden. Whether or not MH370 was a victim of espionage, the unanswered questions leave a shadow over the official narrative. If this theory holds any truth, then the tragedy of 239 lives may have been the price of a secret war fought above the clouds. But if that is the case, who ordered such a mission, and what did they hope to gain? One of the boldest claims about MH370 is that the aircraft was taken over remotely using advanced technology. This theory begins with the idea of uninterruptible autopilot, a system proposed after the September 11th attacks. The purpose was to give authorities the ability to control a plane from the ground in case of hijacking. Patents for such systems exist, and while officials never confirmed their use, the very possibility has fueled suspicion. If MH370 was fitted with such technology, it could explain how the aircraft changed course without communication from the cockpit. Supporters of this view point out that MH370 made a series of strange maneuvers before vanishing from radar. The sudden turn back across Malaysia, the flight over the Malacca Strait, and the long journey south toward the Indian Ocean are movements that some experts believe could have been guided by outside control. They argue that pilots under duress would likely send signals or distress calls, yet none were ever received. For those who believe in remote hijacking, the silence of the cockpit is evidence that the crew was no longer in command. The unusual lights captured in the leaked videos have also been linked to this idea. Some claim the orbs seen circling the aircraft could be experimental drones or energy-based devices used to disable controls. While skeptics suggest the footage is not authentic, believers argue that the orbs represent a visible sign of technology far ahead of what the public knows. In this view, MH370 was not lost to an accident, but to a demonstration of hidden power. Critics say the remote hijack hypothesis stretches beyond what is practical. They argue that even if such systems existed, deploying them on a commercial flight would require coordination too large to keep secret. Yet the very lack of transparency from authorities has made the theory harder to dismiss. The mystery surrounding radar gaps and satellite data leaves room for explanations outside normal aviation events. For some, the fact that MH370 evaded detection for hours is itself a clue that external control was possible. The hypothesis has also been compared to Cold War experiments, when both the United States and the Soviet Union tested electronic warfare and control systems on aircraft. In those cases, secrecy was maintained for decades before details emerged. Supporters believe that MH370 could have been a modern example, a test carried out in real time with real passengers. If that is true, then the flight's disappearance was not random, but a calculated exercise of power. The remote hijack theory has not been proven, but it has reshaped the debate by raising questions about the limits of military technology. If a passenger jet can be taken over without warning, then no commercial flight is completely safe. The tragedy of MH370 may have been the stage for a demonstration that was never meant to be seen. But if this was a test, then who ordered it, and what message was it supposed to send to the world? Among the most controversial theories surrounding MH370 is the claim that the plane may have been diverted to Diego Garcia, a remote U.S. military base in the Indian Ocean. The island is isolated, heavily guarded, and central to American military strategy, making it a natural magnet for suspicion. Supporters of this view argue that if MH370 had been taken for intelligence reasons, Diego Garcia would have been the only facility in range capable of handling such a secret operation. The suspicion deepened when reports connected the flight to a possible passenger message. An image allegedly sent by Philip Wood, one of the passengers, appeared online showing only darkness but containing GPS data that pointed near Diego Garcia. Believers took this as proof that at least one passenger tried to communicate after the plane disappeared from civilian radar. Critics dismissed the photo as manipulated, but the story resonated because it suggested a direct human link between MH370 and the hidden base. Further testimony came from residents in the Maldives who reported seeing a large, low-flying plane heading south on the same day MH370 vanished. They described the noise and size as consistent with a Boeing 777. Officials quickly denied the claim, yet the eyewitness accounts lingered. For many observers, it seemed unlikely that islanders in a quiet region could mistake such a massive aircraft, and their voices kept the Diego Garcia theory alive. The island's history adds fuel to the speculation. Diego Garcia has long been used as a launch pad for American missions, including operations during the Gulf War, the invasion of Afghanistan, and the war in Iraq. The base has also been tied to drone flights and was rumored to be part of secret detention programs during the War on Terror. Its reputation for secrecy makes it plausible, at least to conspiracy believers, that MH370 could have been hidden there without public knowledge. Skeptics respond that Diego Garcia is too closely monitored for such an operation to remain secret. A Boeing 777 carrying 239 people could not land without detection, and the logistics of hiding passengers, crew, and wreckage would be staggering. Yet the lack of transparency from both the US and Malaysian governments leaves space for doubt. Key radar and satellite data remain classified, and delays in releasing information after the disappearance only deepen the sense of a cover-up. For families of the victims, the Diego Garcia theory is both painful and persistent. Some cling to it as a way of believing their loved ones might have survived, while others see it as a cruel distraction from the truth. Either way, the theory continues to dominate online discussions and documentaries because it represents the possibility of human intention behind the tragedy. Diego Garcia has become a symbol of mystery in the MH370 case. Whether or not the plane ever approached the island, the name is now tied to secrecy and unanswered questions. If the aircraft truly ended its flight there, then what became of the passengers, and why has no government dared to confirm or deny it with full evidence? The official story of MH370 rests on radar tracks and satellite data, yet even these sources leave troubling gaps. Military radar shows the plane making a sharp turn back across Malaysia before heading out toward the Indian Ocean, but after that, the trail fades into uncertainty. For many, the idea that modern surveillance systems could lose track of a Boeing 777 seems hard to believe. The lack of complete radar coverage has become one of the biggest mysteries in the case. Satellite signals known as handshakes are another key part of the investigation. These pings from Inmarsat satellites suggested that the aircraft continued flying for hours after disappearing from radar. Analysts use these signals to build the famous Southern Corridor, where searches focused on the Indian Ocean. But experts have admitted that the data can be interpreted in more than one way, and the math behind the arcs is not easy to verify. Critics argue that the entire search depended on assumptions that may not be correct. Then came the discovery of debris. Pieces linked to MH370 were found on beaches in Réunion, Madagascar, and along the coast of Africa. Some showed signs of long exposure to the sea, but others appeared surprisingly intact. While these finds confirm that parts of the aircraft reached the ocean, they did not prove where or how the crash happened. Supporters of alternative theories point out that debris could have been planted or released later to fit the official narrative. The lack of personal belongings or clear evidence from the main fuselage only deepens the doubt. Adding to the confusion is the strange pattern of communication loss. Transponders stopped sending signals almost at the same moment the aircraft turned off course, suggesting deliberate action. Pilots under stress usually try to contact air traffic control, yet no such calls were recorded. Investigators have struggled to explain why both the transponder and ACAR system ceased transmitting at nearly the same time. To conspiracy theorists, this looks like a controlled shutdown rather than a coincidence. Families of the victims have long demanded access to raw data, but governments have released only partial information. The Malaysian authorities admitted errors in their early timeline, and the delay in announcing critical details like the lithium-ion cargo fueled suspicion further. Each inconsistency has become a building block for alternative theories, showing how fragile the official version can appear. The evidence that exists both confirms and challenges the story. Radar, satellite signals, and debris all point to a flight that ended in the ocean, but the gaps between them allow other explanations to survive. This tension keeps the mystery alive because every piece of evidence seems to answer one question while raising two more. If the truth is hidden within these contradictions, then what detail has the world overlooked, and why has no authority dared to present a full and final account? After years of searching, the families of MH370's passengers are still waiting for the truth, and the world remains divided between official reports and theories of intelligence operations. The idea that the plane was taken over has never been proven, but it has also never been erased. Each unanswered question keeps the mystery alive, turning grief into frustration. The disappearance of 239 lives is more than a tragedy. It is a shadow over global aviation. If this was truly a military operation, then what was gained, and what price was the world forced to pay? What do you think about the theory that MH370 was taken over for intelligence reasons? Was the truth covered up, or was it simply a tragic coincidence? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective might hold the clue that changes how we see this mystery. And if you want to keep exploring hidden stories and shocking secrets from around the world, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss the next investigation.